Take a moment and breathe. How many thoughts have crossed your mind today? How many lifted you and how many pulled you down? Your mind is a garden. What you plant grows. Today, we choose to delete the weeds of negativity and plant seeds of peace, faith, and hope. Because when you review your mind for good, you take back control of your inner world and begin to live free. The human mind is a sacred space, yet many of us allow it to be cluttered with noise that doesn't belong there. We let negative thoughts settle in like dust on glass, slowly dimming the light that was meant to shine through. Every day, our inner voice narrates the story of our lives, and too often that voice becomes harsh, critical, and unforgiving. We start believing lies whispered by fear, that we are not enough, that we have failed too much, that others are happier, more successful, more loved. But the truth is, negative thinking is not reality. It is a reflection of wounds we haven't healed. The mind remembers pain and disappointment, replaying them like broken records, convincing us that what happened before will happen again. When you allow negativity to rule, it becomes a habit, a reflex. Your mind becomes a battlefield where you fight yourself daily. But you were never meant to live that way. You were meant to be at peace. You were created to have clarity, calm, and contentment. The key lies in awareness, noticing what you tell yourself, questioning why you think that way, and replacing lies with truth. You can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest. In the same way, you can't stop a negative thought from appearing, but you can stop it from living in your mind. Start by observing your thoughts without judgment. Don't fight them, but don't feed them. Every time your mind tells you can't, gently respond, maybe I can. Every time it whispers you're not enough, remind yourself that you are made with purpose. Slowly, you'll rewire the pathways of your brain. This isn't instant. It's a process of inner renewal. You must review your mind daily, the way you review what you eat or how you take care of your body. Ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind? Am I consuming negativity, comparison, fear? Or am I nurturing hope, gratitude, and purpose? When you review your thoughts, you start to take back authority. You stop being a victim of your emotions and become the guardian of your peace. Negative thinking thrives on inattention. It grows when you let it roam free, but when you bring awareness, love, and forgiveness to your mind, negativity loses its grip. So start today. Sit with yourself. Breathe deeply and ask your heart to guide your thoughts back to light. Every time you choose a positive thought, you are deleting one line of negativity from the script of your life, and soon your story will read differently. Not a story of fear and failure, but of resilience, renewal, and quiet strength. Guard your inner circle. The voices you listen to shape the voice inside you. Many of the thoughts that you call your own are actually echoes of other people's words. The criticisms, comparisons, and judgments you've absorbed over time. The people we spend time with are like mirrors. They either reflect our light or distort it. If your environment is filled with negativity, gossip, or people who constantly point out what's wrong instead of what's possible, that energy seeps into your mind. You begin to internalize it, even unconsciously. Suddenly, their doubts become your doubts. Their fears become your fears. And their low expectations become the ceiling of your dreams. That is why protecting your inner circle is not about arrogance. It's about survival. It's about guarding your peace the way you guard your heart. You can't allow every opinion to take residence in your mind. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some people bring encouragement and others bring confusion. Some bring healing while others reopen wounds. You have to learn to discern who belongs close to you and who only drains your spirit. You see, when you listen long enough to voices that diminish your worth, you begin to see yourself through their lens. You start doubting your abilities, questioning your intuition, and shrinking your potential just to fit their comfort zone. But your life's purpose was never meant to be small. You were made to rise, to grow, to expand beyond the limits others set for you. So when you choose to surround yourself with people who inspire you, who remind you of your strength, and who hold you accountable to your higher self, you are not being selective, you are being wise. Energy is contagious. The peace, faith, and positivity of those around you become the rhythm your heart beats to. And the same is true in reverse. When you constantly hear negativity, your inner voice learns its language. Think about it. How often do you leave a conversation feeling heavier, drained, or anxious? That's not coincidence, that's spiritual and emotional exchange. We are all transmitters and receivers of energy. What you consume through words, actions, and presence shapes the inner dialogue you carry. That's why reviewing your mind for good also means reviewing your relationships. Ask yourself, do the people I listen to lift me up or weigh me down? Do they remind me of what's good, or do they feed my fears? And here's the truth many ignore. Sometimes the loudest negative voice is not a friend or a stranger. It's someone close, someone you love. It's difficult, but learning to set boundaries with negativity, even when it comes from those we care about, is one of the greatest acts of self-love. Boundaries don't mean rejection, they mean respect for yourself, for your growth, and for your peace. You can love someone deeply and still protect your mental space from their pessimism. You don't need to argue or prove anything. You just need to choose. Silence where there's chaos, distance where there's drama, and calm where there's conflict. Protecting your mind isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that your thoughts are sacred ground and not everyone should be allowed to plant seeds there. Surround yourself with people who remind you to pray, to breathe, to dream. Be with those who speak truth gently, who encourage quietly, and who see beauty even when you're struggling. And if you can't find such people yet, become one. Be that voice of peace, that reminder of strength, that reflection of hope. Because when you become light for others, you also light your own path. When your inner circle becomes a source of kindness and understanding, your inner voice begins to heal. You no longer wake up dreading the day or doubting your worth. Instead, you begin to hear whispers of faith, gratitude, and courage from within. Remember, the quality of your thoughts mirrors the quality of your company. If you want to think better, live better, and love deeper, choose your surroundings wisely. Guard your inner circle as if your peace depends on it, because it truly does. Replace self-criticism with curiosity. Ask, why do I feel this way? Instead of what's wrong with me? The words we whisper to ourselves when no one is watching have the power to either heal or destroy. Most of us have spent years being our own harshest critics. We talk to ourselves in ways we would never speak to someone we love. When we make mistakes, we say, I'm so stupid. When we fail, we think, I'm not good enough. When we feel tired or overwhelmed, we label ourselves as weak. This constant cycle of internal blame and judgment traps the soul in shame. But the truth is, there is nothing wrong with you. You are simply human, experiencing emotion, imperfection, and growth. Self-criticism creates fear and paralysis, while curiosity creates compassion and understanding. When you start to ask, why do I feel this way? You open a doorway to self-awareness. You begin to trace your emotions back to their roots instead of attacking yourself for feeling them. Maybe you feel anxious not because you're broken, but because you've been carrying too much alone. Maybe you feel sad not because you're ungrateful, but because something deep inside you longs for connection. Maybe you feel angry not because you're bad, but because your boundaries have been crossed too many times. Every feeling carries a message, but when you criticize yourself, you silence that message. Curiosity invites you to listen. It says, I want to understand you, not I want to fix you. Curiosity is gentle. It doesn't rush. It doesn't condemn. It pauses and asks, what is this emotion trying to tell me? That simple question can transform your entire relationship with your mind, because when you approach your feelings with curiosity, you stop running from them and start learning from them. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad and start seeing them as signals from your inner world, guiding you toward healing, balance, and truth. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall countless times, but they don't shame themselves for falling. They just try again. Yet as adults, we stumble once and immediately declare ourselves failures. But what if instead you observed your own journey with the same tenderness you would show that child? What if you said, I fell, but I'm learning? Self-kindness is not weakness, it is wisdom. It allows growth to happen naturally, without the weight of constant judgment. Criticism says you're wrong. Curiosity says you're growing. Criticism shuts doors, curiosity opens them. Criticism comes from fear. Curiosity is born from love. When you live in a state of curiosity, your mind becomes more peaceful. You no longer fear mistakes because you see them as teachers. You no longer fear emotions because you know they are guides. You no longer fear yourself because you are finally willing to understand yourself. And this is how transformation begins. Not through punishment, but through patience. When you stop attacking yourself for how you feel and start exploring why you feel it, you begin to heal the root rather than the surface. The moment you ask why instead of what's wrong with me, you turn pain into awareness. You shift from judgment to wisdom. This mindset also changes how you relate to others. When you stop being harsh toward yourself, you naturally become gentler toward the people around you. You stop needing to control, correct, or compete. You start seeing the same humanity in others that you've finally embraced in yourself. Compassion flows more easily when it begins within. So next time your mind starts its familiar spiral of self-criticism, pause, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I'm curious. Curiosity doesn't erase pain, but it softens it. It replaces resistance with understanding. It allows you to meet yourself exactly where you are, not where you think you should be. You don't have to fix yourself today. You don't have to have every answer. All you need is the courage to ask gentle questions, to listen without judgment, and to trust that understanding will come in time. Because the truth is, you were never broken. You were just waiting to be understood. Gratitude is not a reaction. It's a discipline that rewires the mind toward peace. Too often we think gratitude is something that happens only when life becomes easy, when everything aligns perfectly, when blessings arrive wrapped neatly in joy. But gratitude is not born in comfort. It is strengthened in challenge. It is not simply a feeling. It is a choice, a practice, a deliberate turning of the heart toward what is good, even when the world feels heavy. Gratitude trains the mind to notice what is present instead of obsessing over what is missing. It shifts the focus from scarcity to sufficiency, from longing to presence, from complaint to appreciation. Negative thoughts cannot dominate a mind that has been trained to find light, even in small places. When you wake up each morning, your mind immediately starts searching for something to hold on to. A thought, a memory, a worry, a hope. If the first thing you give your mind is gratitude, you give it direction. You teach it where to look, what to expect, what to amplify. Because the truth is, the mind amplifies whatever you feed it. If you feed it fear, even small problems will look like mountains. If you feed it gratitude, even storms will reveal hidden gifts. Gratitude doesn't deny pain or pretend everything is perfect. It simply places pain in a wider frame, reminding you that hardship is one chapter, not the whole story. Gratitude whispers, there is still something good here. Look again. The beauty of gratitude is that it grows with practice. The more you choose to be thankful, the more your mind becomes trained to notice blessings instinctively. It becomes a rhythm, a habit, a lens through which you interpret your life. Instead of thinking, why is everything going wrong? You start seeing what is still going right. Instead of saying, I don't have enough, you begin to acknowledge all that is already in your hands. Gratitude does not depend on circumstances. It depends on awareness. It depends on your willingness to look deeper, softer, slower. And this discipline of gratitude begins in the small moments. The quiet breath in the morning, the warmth of tea in your hands, the message from a friend, the softness of your pillow, the body that carries you through another day. When you start appreciating these small things, your heart expands and negativity loses its oxygen. You stop living in a constant state of comparison because gratitude keeps your eyes on your own blessings, your own journey, your own space. Comparison cannot survive in a grateful heart. Many people wait for big miracles to feel grateful, but miracles often come disguised as ordinary moments. The ability to walk, to see, to think, to breathe. These are miracles millions would give anything to have. Gratitude reminds you that you already live inside abundance, even when you forget to notice it. When you practice gratitude regularly, stress begins to soften. Anxiety loses its intensity. Your thoughts begin to slow down. Gratitude doesn't eliminate struggles, but it gives you strength to face them with steadiness instead of panic. And the most powerful shift happens inside the mind. Gratitude rewires neural pathways. It literally trains the brain to search for positivity. Over time, your default thinking becomes gentler, kinder, more hopeful. You begin to recover faster from disappointment. You begin to let go of hurt more easily. You begin to trust life's process with more patience. Gratitude teaches you that you can feel sadness and still recognize beauty, that you can hold discomfort and still acknowledge goodness, that you can face uncertainty and still trust something greater is working beneath the surface. Gratitude is not denial, it is clarity. It is the art of seeing the whole picture, not just the dark corner. It is the realization that even in the middle of difficulties, there are threads of mercy woven through your days. When you choose gratitude, you reclaim your power over your mind. You stop letting negative thoughts dictate your mood and start letting grateful thoughts guide your perspective. And slowly, your inner world becomes softer, calmer, more rooted. Gratitude becomes your anchor, the stabilizing force that keeps you steady in the shifting tides of life. Each time you practice it, you polish the mirror of your heart, allowing light to enter more easily. Gratitude is the discipline that transforms the mind from chaos to clarity, from restlessness to peace, from scarcity to abundance, one deliberate thought at a time. Silence is medicine. Step away from chaos to hear your thoughts clearly. In the world we live in today, noise has become our constant companion. There is noise from our phones, our schedules, our expectations, our relationships, and even the noise that comes from within. The endless chatter of our own minds. We have become so used to constant stimulation that silence now feels uncomfortable, even frightening. But the truth is, silence is where healing begins. When you are always surrounded by noise, you lose touch with your inner self. You become a stranger to your own thoughts. You begin reacting to life instead of reflecting on it. You start absorbing everyone else's opinions, fears, and emotions until you no longer know which ones truly belong to you. Silence, on the other hand, gives you back your clarity. It is not emptiness. It is space. It is not absence. It is presence. It is the quiet ground where your soul can finally breathe. When you step away from chaos, you allow your mind to settle like water after a storm. The dirt begins to fall to the bottom and the water becomes clear again. That clarity is what silence offers you. The ability to see things as they truly are. So often we rush to fix, to decide, to speak, to prove, but silence teaches you to wait, to listen, to understand. It reminds you that not every reaction deserves a response, not every noise deserves attention, and not every problem requires panic. In silence, you start to hear your own intuition, that small, gentle voice that is often drowned out by the world's demands. It's the voice that says, "You're tired, rest." The one that whispers, "You're strong enough to let this go." Or the one that gently asks, "Is this truly what you want?" You see, silence is not about the absence of sound. It's about the presence of awareness. You can be silent even in a noisy place if your heart is still. And you can be loud even in solitude if your mind refuses to rest. Learning silence is learning to anchor yourself in stillness, to detach from the external chaos so you can tend to the internal one. It's in those quiet moments when you sit with yourself away from distraction, that truth begins to surface. You begin to see patterns in your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. You begin to realize how much energy you've spent on things that don't truly matter. You begin to hear the cries of your soul that have been buried beneath busyness. Silence also teaches humility. It shows you that the world doesn't stop when you pause. It continues to move, reminding you that your worth was never tied to constant doing. You start to understand that productivity without peace is emptiness disguised as success. You learn to be okay with not always having answers, not always being visible, not always being on. Because in silence, you rediscover what you lost in noise, yourself. Many people fear silence because it forces them to face what they've been running from. The unresolved pain, the unmet needs, the unanswered questions, they all surface when the noise fades. But facing them is not punishment, it's purification. It's the moment your healing truly begins, when you allow silence to hold you. It doesn't judge, it doesn't demand, it just receives you as you are, exhausted, confused, uncertain, but still capable of peace. Silence brings perspective. It reminds you that not everything is urgent, not every opinion matters, and not every emotion requires action. It helps you respond instead of react, speak with intention instead of impulse, and move with purpose instead of pressure. Silence creates space for grace to enter. In the quiet, your mind learns to rest. Your emotions learn to soften, and your body learns to breathe. Make silence a daily ritual, not a rare escape. It could be a few minutes in the morning before the world wakes up, a moment in nature where you listen to the wind instead of your phone, or simply sitting in your room with closed eyes, breathing deeply. Those moments recalibrate your soul. They remind you that peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in a quiet heart. The more you practice silence, the more sensitive you become to what disturbs it. You start protecting your energy more carefully. You start choosing peace over drama, stillness over distraction, understanding over reaction. You begin to realize that silence was never empty. It was full of wisdom, full of truth, full of answers you couldn't hear before. Silence is the medicine your mind has been craving, the rest your spirit has been begging for, and the doorway through which peace quietly enters. Healing begins when you believe you are worthy of peace, not when life becomes easy. Many people spend their entire lives waiting for peace to arrive after the storm, as if calm is something that can only exist once everything is fixed, everyone is happy, and every wound is closed. But true healing doesn't wait for perfect circumstances. It starts the moment you decide that your soul deserves peace, even in the middle of chaos. Healing begins with belief. It begins with the quiet, radical decision to stop postponing your inner peace until the world around you changes. It begins when you look at your pain, your flaws, your past, and say, even with all this, I still deserve to rest. I still deserve to be kind to myself. So often we think healing is a reward for doing better, being stronger, or achieving more. But healing is not a prize. It is a birthright. You were created with the capacity for renewal. Every day your body heals, your heart repairs, your mind resets if you allow it to. But the first step is to believe you are worthy of that process. If you keep telling yourself that you'll be at peace when everything finally goes right, you'll never reach it. Because life will always have something to test you, to stretch you, to humble you. The peace you're waiting for won't come from a change in your surroundings, but from a change in your surrender. Believing you are worthy of peace means forgiving yourself for what you didn't know, for the mistakes you made while trying to survive, for the times you stayed too long in places that hurt you because you thought love meant endurance. It means allowing yourself to rest even when there's still work to do, to smile even when you haven't figured everything out, to hope even after disappointment. This belief is not arrogance, it's acceptance. It's realizing that your value was never dependent on your perfection. You are worthy simply because you exist. When you stop resisting your own worth, your healing accelerates. You no longer fight your emotions, you allow them to flow and pass. You no longer numb your pain, you listen to it and learn from it. You no longer chase people or validation to feel enough. You start anchoring your sense of peace within. That's when healing becomes natural, not forced, not fabricated, but free-flowing. Because healing is not about erasing the past. It's about rewriting your relationship with it. It's looking back and saying, that hurt me, but it doesn't define me. It shaped me, but it didn't destroy me. The most beautiful kind of healing happens quietly. It doesn't announce itself with big changes or loud victories. It begins subtly, in the way you stop overreacting, in the way you speak more gently to yourself, in the way you no longer seek revenge, in the way you choose peace over proving a point. Healing is when you stop reopening old wounds just to see if they still hurt. It's when you stop performing for acceptance and start existing with authenticity. It's when you begin trusting that your journey, with all its ups and downs, is still sacred. And yes, healing takes time. There will be days when the pain resurfaces, when you question your progress, when you wonder if peace is even possible. But each time you choose to breathe through it instead of breaking from it, you grow stronger. Each time you remind yourself, I deserve to feel okay, you take back a piece of yourself that pain tried to steal. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll rise, some days you'll rest, some days you'll revisit what you thought you'd already overcome. But even that is part of the process. You're not moving backward. You're deepening your understanding. When you finally believe you are worthy of peace, you stop making pain your identity. You stop living in survival mode. You start choosing people and environments that mirror your healing, not your hurt. You begin saying no to chaos, not because you're cold, but because you've learned to love your calm. You stop romanticizing struggle and start valuing stillness. You stop chasing closure from others and start finding completion within yourself. Peace doesn't arrive when everything outside you calms down. It begins the moment you calm down inside yourself. It is born from belief, from faith, from the quiet courage to say, I may not have all I want yet, but I already have everything I need to feel at peace. Healing starts when you stop waiting for someone to save you and realize that the healer has been within you all along, waiting for your permission to bring you home to yourself.